Well, hello everybody. My name is Scuttles, and welcome back to another Prehistoric Kingdom time-lapse. So I will go ahead and address the glaring obvious elephant in the room that is the frame rate of this video. For whatever reason, my time-lapse recording software just turned it into this. I don't know what happened. If you look at the last one, you can see that we had a perfectly fine time-lapse video, but for some reason, today it looks like we have a slideshow, and I'm incredibly sorry about that. That being said, we do have other time lapses on the channel about this if this is your first time here, and I promise we don't always look like this. But please bear with me for today, because today I do have something pretty exciting. I've gone ahead and recreated the Visitor Center from Jurassic Park in the new Prehistoric Kingdom Beta. So for a start here, you can see that what I've gone ahead and done is I've pulled one of the tour vehicles from our previous time-lapse build, and I've brought it over here just to kind of get a sense of scale so I could at least have a starting point and know about how big I should go ahead and try and make this thing. So you can see here I'm just putting in the basic stairways as well as the arches that are going to encase like the water fountain or the water feature, whatever you want to call that thing, and all the other little elements that make up the visitor center's front entrance. And this part right here actually took a lot of finicky movements and tweaking, so it kind of takes a little bit to get past this point, and it was an absolute pain to do. There will actually be multiple times throughout this video where you'll see I just give up on trying to make the design of the building for a bit, just take a break, walk away, do something else, and then come back to it because of how frustrating it was to do this because of just how frustrating it was to actually try and work with this curvy design and everything. It was an absolute nightmare, but we did eventually get it in the end. So of course here you'll just see me struggling with this a little bit longer, and then once this is all finally said and done, you can see that I am eventually starting to transition onto making the actual door frame itself, the one that has the iconic T-Rex embedded into like that rock sort of outline along the door. It's really cool looking, and so here you can see me trying to replicate that. I didn't go too crazy on the detail of the skeleton, just kind of did the basic components that let you know, like, hey, that is what it is, just to get the message across because I didn't want to create too much lag, because at the end of the day, I don't want to actually play the game if it's going to be looking the same way that you guys are seeing it right here. I am sincerely sorry about that again. And now that we've got that main doorway done, you can see that we're starting to move on to the water feature. And I actually went ahead and used stairs for the inside of this part, because the specific reference image that I was using at this time almost made it look as though there were stairs in it, which was kind of odd, but I mean, either way, that's just what I went with to go ahead and try and replicate that. And while we're on that note about reference images, I used tons of different reference images online to try and make this as accurate as possible. I found a bunch of different like architectural blueprint layouts of this place, and I even almost went ahead and actually did the full like cafe and everything like that you would see from an architectural layout. In most games you just see the round building that we're building in this episode, but if you actually go online and look at the actual blueprints of this place, then you can see that it's not just the circle that most people probably think it is. It's actually got a whole bunch of different stuff going on behind the scenes that you just don't see in the film. And so I did actually consider making all of that, but for the sake of keeping it simple, and because of how much of a nightmare that this already was, I went ahead and kept it at this today, but who knows, maybe we can come and revisit it another day and actually do all those other sections. And who knows, maybe if I'm feeling really ambitious, I can even come back and try to do the entire interior? Now that sounds like an absolute nightmare to me, because this was hard enough as is, but I guess if there's enough of a demand for it, or perhaps I'm just extremely bored one day and looking to torture myself, then hey, maybe I'll actually come back and do the full interior of this thing. We'll just have to see what happens. Maybe we'll make this into a big ol' long series of just making the whole visitor center. I don't know, we'll see. Now one thing that kind of got skipped over while I was talking, but is still visible in this next shot here, is the fact that I did actually mess around with some of the new water features. Like, if you look down into the water features, you can actually see a couple splashes there. So I did try and mess around with some of those new elements. I wasn't completely sold on them, but I did incorporate them anyways just to give it a little bit of extra life, and maybe make it look a little bit more like water than just the normal staircase. So hopefully that looks good. Here I am just finally getting onto the roof. You can see that I'm using a bunch of different like weird techniques in order to like morph these shapes the way that I want them to be. I like have to rotate them and then scale them in certain directions in order to make up a shape that's not actually in the game. It's really tedious, but it all ended up working in the long run, so can't complain. Now here you will see me making the small little side rotundas that go along the side of the main larger one. and we'll just place those on either side of the large circle there. Of course, want to mirror that over to the other side once I get it all finished. And now you can see that both of the smaller twin rotundas are now on the side of the larger one. And with this here, it was basically time to just finish the outer shell instead of having it just floating up in the air, and that was pretty much one of the last steps. I also went ahead and made a railing later on, which you'll see, but here I am just trying to figure out how to get the overall sort of shape of the visitor center's walls on the outside, as well as still being able to leave space for those garage doors that you do actually briefly see in the film, but unless you just have eagle eyes or you go back and actually pause the film, it's very likely that you just miss it because of how quickly it goes by. So if you didn't happen to know that, then I couldn't blame you, but there is actually blueprints online that also showcase the fact that there are these large garages on the side of the visitor center, which the vehicles can enter and just use basically as storage. You know, that's what garages are for. Here's another one of those points where I got tired of working on the actual building because of how difficult it was, and I had to go and just do something else. You can see I actually started putting in the lake out front, the roadway, and did a little bit of terraforming with the actual painting of the grass and everything like that, in order to just get my mind off of it for a minute and just kind of cool down for a second before going back to it, which you can see me doing right now, putting on those last little layers of the actual outside shell of this building. And there's the last piece right there. And so then it was at this point that I decided to go ahead and try and pretty up the rest of the scene, make it look how it did in the movie, put in some lily pads in the middle, put the large trees around the visitor center. I actually tried to replicate the layout of the trees based off the reference images that I had as well. So that's sort of just an extra little detail that I tried to put in there. You can maybe notice it if you actually paid that close attention, but most people will probably have no idea that those are supposed to be the same trees. And then right here you can see that this is just a little fenced railing along the top of the main building. And that's pretty much the last little detail that this thing needs. So as soon as that's finished up, you'll see that we'll just go to a couple glory shots of the whole thing. And yeah, overall, I was actually very happy with this whole project, apart from the fact that my time-lapse got completely butchered. That's just big tough. But here you can see a couple glory shots of it. I hope you guys found a way to enjoy this at all, even with how choppy the frame rate was. I am sincerely sorry about that. There are a couple cards that have probably popped up throughout the video, suggesting another one in case you want to see something else sort of like this that's not as choppy. Then hopefully that'll also be up your alley. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and I guess I'll just leave you with these few glory shots. And until next time, thanks so much for watching. Bye bye.